Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results.
So stressful when the world's on fire. Good God. I can't look at this, guys. Like, my strategy is you buy it and you hope that you got a good spot. Yeah, but we all think you're crazy. You don't fight this. No way. The markets are freaking out and you don't think that anything is wrong? Come back tomorrow and I'll lose it all. Should be fun. Good morning. Well, what day is it today? It's Wednesday. How are you? Happy Wednesday. Man, you know what happened is I had a donut for breakfast. Okay, so the charts. Here yesterday, really impressive upside move seemingly out of nowhere. Actually a breach of the highs overnight, but mostly we're pretty unchanged. It's actually quite slow. I don't know. I do kind of wonder, or I'm thinking this might be the sign to go long treasuries, but you know, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. That seems significant. And by the way, one of the news stories coming out yesterday, there's rumors that the Treasury Department could do buybacks to shore up the bond market. Really enjoying the shorts. I think you have a good thing going. What are you talking? Oh, the shorts, the YouTube shorts. Thank you very much. That means a lot to me, Zach, because sometimes I wonder if like people actually care about them or not. Okay, S&P 500 also really strong up move yesterday. I pulled back a little bit, but you know, it's all good. Oil on the up move, gold and silver on the up, Kappa on the up. So we've just got like a global risk on coming from yesterday. Bitcoin also taking it, and the dollar got crushed yesterday, and they get crushed overnight. No significant move in the treasuries though. So this whole thing yesterday, where we were like, well, it's hard to tell where it's coming from. Seems like the dollar is moving, and that's the big thing here. Nah, I really think that it was moving because of this rumor. I think it could be. Okay, so what is this? Dollar slides on expectations of less hawkish Fed. Morning comments. Confirm it's about housing and Fed pivot. I don't know. Let's see. I think the potential treasury buyback rumor is interesting, but it seems too speculative to be the cause of a move like that. So I do think it's that investors are expecting a less hawkish Fed overall. I don't know what to say about it other than that. Let's see here. Let's go to Twitter. We are getting a little bit of up movement here to start the session. Although, was that down move start before? Yeah, it did. I think that down move was maybe actually part of the open. Let's see. We'll find out for sure. Yes, it was. There was a bit of down movement on the open. Curious. Okay. Larry Summers, it's all complicated pictures, and we are probably going to have a certain amount of inflation for some time to come. We don't have any experience with soft landings from high inflation without recessions. He's right. Is it possible to put a stop to stop inflation in its tracks without causing an inflation? I mean, I kind of wonder. Nick Demiros. U.S. mortgage rates rose to 7.16 last week for the 30-year fixed loan, the highest since 2001. Rates have gone up for 10 consecutive weeks in the Mortgage Bankers Association survey and have doubled over the past 12 months. Applications for purchase loans are down 42% year over. Wow, 42% is huge. Okay. Join blah, 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 blah. Mohammed A. El Arian. Some media outlets are speculating that Rishi Sunak may delay the policy announcement scheduled for Monday. This would provide more time to design the measures and consult. It would also be risky, complicating the Bank of England's task and possibly reawakening bond vigilantes. I do kind of feel like that a week is not enough time. Okay, so we were getting a little bit of a good up move, and then we got smacked down again. Pretty quick move there. Unclear what the driver here is. We might be seeing moves in the actual bond market, moving some of these things around, but So Jeffrey Gunlock, I love to read his tweets, but a lot of the time he talks about the stuff that has nothing to do with the market. Dear President Biden, get tough on fentanyl now. Joseph Wang, new report from the Financial Stability Board on issues in government bond market liquidity. I would definitely want to see that. Good morning, Octavians. Like my people on Twitter that I follow, a lot of them are talking about sports now, all of a sudden. Kind of weird. Wow. In the first 6 months of this year, Andreessen Horowitz went all in on cryptos, lost $2.9 billion of its remaining stake in Coinbase as the crypto exchange's stock price cratered by more than 80%. You know what? What? Well, not you know what, but I wonder what it must be like to lose $1 billion. Is that absolutely soul crushing? Or is it like, well, I had $1 billion to lose. That's pretty cool. I think I would probably be like the latter. I think I'd be like, if I lost $1 million in a day, it'd be like, that's so cool that I even have $1 million to lose. And that's an experience that very few people get to have. Well, there's a little further excursion on the upside there. It's definitely moving around. I don't know if that means that there's something actually going on. I kind of suspect no, because the numbers I'm seeing print here aren't that much. But somebody could be doing something sneaky. This report concludes with some policy recommendations. I'll have to read that. Oh wait, here's the PDF. Available as a PDF. Liquidity in court. So what's the conclusion? Wow, that's a lot of takeaways. Okay, this is going to be a serious report. This is going to be a serious read. I will read it after the stream. Let's just come over here. I want to check a few places, see if there's any stories I missed while I was in the shower. Oh, you know what we need to check? We need to check Predict It. Predictit.org. Which party will win the Senate? Whoa. Really? Okay. So I thought that it was kind of like a little like they were gaining and everything, but no, since October 18th or so, they've been saying that the Republicans are likely to win the Senate, and they're very confident about it too. 68%. Happy Fetterman Day. Yeah, so like if we come back over here, we have, can we find it? Let's see here. US elections. Which party will win the PA Senate race? That's the one, right? Yep, that's the one. I don't remember. That's Dr. Oz, right? Nancy Fetterman. Look at the change overnight. It's actually not as extreme as I thought it would be. But yeah, so apparently Mr. Fetterman is what it was. That's his name, right? Did not perform very well at the debate. And like he couldn't even speak. And it was like it was one of the most clear debate performance bombs I've ever heard of. Maybe I should go back and watch it, because I love me a good political debate. You know, I'm a little suspicious of this right now, because I'm seeing like white excursions on both sides. This feels like a stir the pot to me. This feels like they are trying to stir up some liquidity. I'm not really seeing a whole lot of activity from it, but we've moved up and down now like 2 or 3 times. Like I think we've seen these low 3 times and the highest twice. So this is kind of unusual action, and I'm not really seeing anything super clear from rather than Japanese yen. Japanese yen is up overnight, is on at the moment on the downtrend. So it could be that. Could be Japanese yen moving us down a little bit, but I think there's a little bit more on the downside. Well, the most recent lows are at 22. Yeah, 22 was kind of a key point yesterday in the aftermath. It really was like they moved up. It was a double distribution day. Let's put it that way. They moved up. I think there was definitely a stop run involved in that push higher, and then it was just dead the whole rest of the day. You just kind of chopped around in that range the whole day. So can I show you a chart here, by the way? So just an interesting thing to keep in mind, because we talk about how unaffordable housing is, and it's definitely a problem. Okay, the rule of 30. So they say that housing should be 30% of your income, right? Well, what this chart shows us is that, first of all, this isn't the most unaffordable that we've ever been. There was actually a time in the early 80s where a home was 60% of your income if you wanted a new home. That's crazy. But also, it was actually quite low. It was like only 15%, only a few years ago. So I see a lot of people complaining about the cost of housing all the time, you know? And it kind of, I thought that it was like, this has just been the thing, is that not very many millennials have been able to get into a house and yada, yada, yada. I think that the case is that most millennials weren't making enough income to feel like that they could get into a house, but it wasn't that the housing was unaffordable per se. And that the unaffordable housing is much more a recent phenomenon. So that was an interesting divergence from what I thought. China's yuan soars the most on record after Beijing orders banks to dump dollars. Well, the dollar was down overnight. I guess that's they're saying that the driver is coming from the Chinese. Well, I don't know if that's bad for our bonds or not helping, or if there's really anything happening here. I am seeing a decent amount of downtrend in the sign of the orders in the 5-year. Yeah, okay, so do you see here like a little bit of a pullback, and then but they're not able to get very much out of it. And by the way, the liquidity here this morning is not very good. It was much better liquidity yesterday. Also, it looks like it's more of a flattener. This is definitely coming more from the 5-year. Well, I can't see it on my DOM, but I can see it on my chart. I can see it on my chart. So Nassim Taleb is someone who likes to work in cafes. It is easier to concentrate against ambient noise. I just discovered that sitting on a southern veranda is quite similar. It's semi-private, semi-public, and you are constructive solitude while parking in street life. So when I've been taking my practice tests for the Series 65 test, I've been listening to white noise. Music is too distracting to me. Set things right here because this is the bottom of the range so far. What is the safest way to automate a trading edge without getting it stolen by coders other than an NDA? Okay, so number one, I would say write it yourself. Like straight up, if you want to do like automated trading, just learn to code. I know that it seems like a really, really huge, of course, people get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to be coders, right? Coding is a huge discipline, okay? But you got to realize that the coders, a lot of the coders, they're working with really large integrated systems with multiple points and all of this sort of thing, okay? Just making a strategy in NinjaTrader is really quite a simple project. It's actually a really great place to start learning how to code. And I have some tutorials that walk you through the major methods that you need to know. And then you can look at some of the code that's included with NinjaTrader. You'd be surprised how quickly you can figure this stuff out. Okay. So and it's really, I feel that if you want to go the automated route, that it's really almost necessary, because what happens when you're doing automated trading is you're going to say, okay, here's my edge. You go and you code it. And then they go and you code it and they back test it and it does terrible on the back test. So then do you go, oh, okay, the idea sucks. I guess I just give up and I'm going to throw, I just threw away money to pay my coder. No, nobody ever says that, right? They say, well, we need to change this, this, and this, and this, right? And you keep changing it, right? So the reality is that you're probably going to keep changing things over and over and over again. So it's probably, that's why it's really to your advantage to know how to do the coding. Maybe you hire somebody to help you advise you and maybe to help you get started and stuff, but you've got to understand it yourself, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is that if you do absolutely have to have other people involved in whatever it is that you're writing, don't give the whole thing to everyone. Split it up into parts, like different part, like maybe usually in an automated system, there's going to be multiple parts of edge, right? Like for instance, there might be an edge in your entry signal, and then there might be an edge in how you manage to trade once you're in one, and when you take it off, right? And you can split those parts out. So don't give somebody the whole algo, right? Is it tax-free when you sell the house in the USA? It is if it is your primary residence. And there is a cap on it, I think. I think there's a couple of nuances to that. Let's look it up. Taxes when selling your house. Okay. You can sell your primary residence and be exempt from capital gains taxes on the first $250,000 if you're single and $500,000 if married and filing jointly. That is on the capital gains of it. So yeah. But if you make more than $500,000 on it, you're married, then you have to pay capital gains tax on it. But even then, at that point, like, think of it this way: you made $500,000 on the sale of your house, and you have to give away $15,000 of it to taxes. Is that so bad? You know. Oh, no. So I don't think that you have to live there for 2 years, but this exemption is only allowable once every 2 years. So if you like flipped a house and you made $500,000 and you did that year after year, the second year you wouldn't be able to do it because you can only move it's only allowable every 2 years. I am not a tax accountant, so just to keep that in mind. There's also a lot of ways to like defer and discount a lot of your profits on the house. Is it possible to portray your technical edge to hedge fund or investment bank, and if they're impressed, use it in their portfolio and your percentage? Okay. I would think that in theory it's possible, but I've never done this, nor have I ever spoken to anybody that does. So I think the reality is that having a technical edge is incredibly difficult. I have found a few edges that I would consider to be a technical edge, but not one that was significant or reliable enough to be used in a fund. So I've never gotten to that point. But I think that if you were going to approach a hedge fund with something like that, you would want to have some stats on its performance, right? Like preferably you would be able to show like the last 5 to 10 years of hypothetical returns on it from the back test, and then at least a year, if not 2 years worth of trading on it and it being effective. And then you could say, okay, you could include it in your strategy. I think that your strategy would have to factor in to some extent the volume in the market. So for instance, I have an indicator in my package that I sell on speculatorseth.com called Alice. And this is based on some math in Albert Kyle's 1985 paper. And it's basically like a model to say, what is the maximum size I could trade if I know that the market's going to move up X ticks, right? So you need a model like that to size your trades so that the hedge fund can determine how much size they can actually trade with that edge, right? Because you don't want to trade once you're talking about a hedge fund, right? They're going to size up as big as they can do it. So they need to know how much they can size up before they're causing a problem, essentially. Right? So that's the other thing. So you don't want to be something pretty sophisticated. Like it's, I'm not, well, I'm going to say I'm not trying to discourage you from doing it. I think that most of the people that want to get involved in algorithmic trading do not understand the amount of work and sophistication that has to go into it, right? Like if you're really into algorithmic trading, hopefully you're in high school, you can go to a university, get an education in this stuff, and go straight from school to a hedge fund or a bank, right? That's the way to do it if you're really interested in that stuff. But I mean, there have been retail traders that have done it. But as time goes on, they'll just become more and more sophisticated, right? I haven't done a whole lot of algorithmic trading in the last year or so because I basically had gotten to the point where I realized to get to the next level, I need much more sophisticated stuff, and I'm still learning that stuff, like machine learning and so forth. So maybe with machine learning, I'll be able to find some better edges, but we'll see. I have to say, once I understood the kind of the empirically proven behaviors of a limit order book and how that stuff tends to go, and then trying to use that kind of information as kind of a loose guide to help my entries with my larger edge based on informed trading, has been really great. And especially this year in the bonds, man, we've done pretty good. Like I think for myself and my trading, like it's not to the point where like I can size it up really big and everything, but could we eventually base a business on this, like managing a fund with this stuff? I think we could. So that's why, after getting my test that allows me to be an investment advisor representative, which will be cool, and maybe I start my own investment advisor firm. Maybe that's what we have to do, or maybe I sign on with somebody else, or get together with a bunch of people and we do that. Then I'm going to do a series 3 so that I can manage futures. And then we go from there. So maybe we do eventually make a fund. That would be fun. Well, that downside looked a little scary. We did reach the previous pivot lows from a few hours back. And now a little bit of a rebound back into the choppy range again, where we started. So this is I'm going to say an unusually noisy morning. And I would say the amount of volume that we're seeing today is relatively light. I'm going to say maybe it's fairly typical, but the amount of random movement that we're seeing, a very high amount of random movement. So this is all very interesting to me. The study of crypto has a new textbook from Bloomberg Crypto. Okay. I'm kind of wondering, what do you guys think about this? Because I have been kind of sour on Bitcoin for a while, right? Last year, it was like, yeah, Bitcoin's going to fall here. I was screaming all year. Of course, timing something like that's really hard, right? But I made a good call. Nobody really cared. And all I saw was just like fraud everywhere. And it just drove me crazy, but nobody cares. And so I was kind of like, I guess I don't want anything to do with cryptocurrencies now, right? But I've been looking at crypto lately. If the Fed is going to pivot here, I mean, the Fed's not going to pivot, but the Fed is going to hold rates at the very least. I see some potential opportunities in Bitcoin, and especially with my indicator, I think is doing some interesting things. So I'm kind of wondering if I should start promoting that again. So I do have that listed in the video description, right? Patreon.com/speculatorsf. But maybe part of it is that we need to shift. I think, yeah, we need to go to a newsletter. I think. You know what the problem though with the newsletter is that a lot of the information that I'm using, to be honest with you, a lot of the information that I'm using to say like, these are what the expected flows are, a lot of it is coming from reports that I read on Zero Hedge. Not all of it. There's a couple of things that I just know about bonds in general. But so I don't know if I made a newsletter and I was just putting that kind of stuff out, how much interest there would actually be in it. I guess I don't really need to worry about that sort of a thing. I should just do what I want. The other issue though is finding the extra time to do it, because I would probably want to be something that I write late in the evening before I go to sleep, right? Extra work. Now I'm too lazy. Maybe some weakness here, but they fell a little bit and then snapped back to 24.5. They've been doing that a lot ever since the big move. That is just like, it feels like the market makers just kind of trying to shake it around. And so at first I thought maybe they're just trying to stir up liquidity, that this is stir the pot, but this has been going on now for like 30 minutes, right? So this doesn't look like stir the pot. This looks like market maker shenanigans, right? That apparently there hasn't been any further catalyst or reason for big players to come in and trade the treasuries, and so the market maker is just kind of thrashing things around to get activity. Could be wrong. Thank you. Your feedback is mind opening. Your volume indicator, where could I find it? So if you go to speculatorsf.com, you might have an indicator package. It's $100 one-time fee. You get lifetime. Might not always be $100, so that's kind of an advantage to get it now. But I have a couple of things like my synthetic dollar index and my spread indicators, and then I have Alice, which is a way to determine position sizing. There's lots of little things. I have a very extensive documentation written up, so you can go there and see the detailed documentation, read about this, because especially the inventory cost basis indicator is really complicated. And you'd want to be able to understand what it's saying to you, so I've tried to provide all of the information that you would need, even though I know it's kind of dry like documentation, but that's what we got. Interesting. So we came down here to 20, let's say 22, snapped back to 25. Now we're touching 22 again. So something I'm seeing here on Twitter I see from a lot of people. This one is an interesting conspiracy theory. Okay. Although it's a little bit less conspiracy theory-ish, right? So the whole thing is, okay, Joe Biden is doing everything he can to try and help Democrats in the midterms. And so they've been manipulating the markets to try and keep things rosy going into the election. Well, that's definitely the case. I mean, they've been releasing gas from the SPR, for instance, to help them in the midterms. Totally. But like some of the things that people are saying like they could do or would be doing to try and suppress volatility going into the election and everything, I'm a little bit like, okay. But like, here's the thing that's interesting about this conspiracy theory. He's already lost, right? All of the well, predict it seems to be pretty confident at this point that the Democrats are going to lose control of the Senate. The Republicans will control both houses. I don't know what else you can do that's really going to move the needle for people. Oh, did we? You know what? I'm just realizing I have my news clock turned on. We still need to vote though. Right, but I'm just kind of asking, like, is the Joe Biden is trying to manipulate markets to his advantage for the election really a useful trading framework anymore? I kind of question if it actually is. It looks to me like we could see some positive flows in November, but this is all just you know, things that have nothing to do with the election, right? Elections in like what, 2 weeks? It's the 8th, right? So not next week. Oh, but the Tuesday after that. So yeah, it's almost it is 13 days from now, right? What if the market, how do you get the market to move enough in 13 days to significantly change the outcome of the election, right? Like, it's not going to change what the next CPI report is. You know what I mean? Like, it's already set in stone. So I don't feel like the election is a good framework to go off of. I do feel that we're having a pretty quiet day so far today. Certainly in bond land, it's relatively quiet and choppy. Very choppy. Yep. One side I'm like, I should promote my Bitcoin indicator. But another part of me is like, I should make a video trashing Bitcoin. Let's do it. I think I'm going to do it. I'm going to make my video trashing Bitcoin because why not? You know, I was watching a Devin Nash. I like Devin Nash. He's a great guy. He's my kind of guy. He's just interested in business and serious all the time. I love it. He makes YouTube videos, and it's kind of cool how he does it because, like, he doesn't have any video. He hasn't gotten into the video editing, which I'm really surprised. I think that he could do it. And he'll just record videos on OBS straight and everything. But they're still really good videos because his content is so good. And it's about like more marketing and storytelling stuff. So this is the sort of stuff that I'm interested in, right? Stuff that can help our channel. And one of the things that he said is, like, if you're not having success, one of your problems is that you're not controversial enough. You need to be not afraid to rock the boat and to use controversy between two groups to generate traffic for you. And like, I feel like I have kind of done that. And when I think about it, the times when I have kind of done that has kind of generated some more traffic. So maybe I do need to go all out and just make the Bitcoin sucks, here's why video. I wish there was a crypto index, like a correlation index of all crypto. Are you sure that there isn't one? I mean, like of course there's not going to be like an ETF or anything, but I would be really surprised if there wasn't some sort of a hedge fund out there that's trying to give you that. Some sort of fund out there, and it might take some work to be able to put your money in it, but I bet you it exists. I bet you it exists because there's definitely people out there managing cryptos in this fashion, right? And like on a monthly basis, rebalancing their portfolio, right? Definitely happens. Although I think that the biggest like, what we say, kind of like I don't want to call it institutional because I don't know how big of institutions these are, or maybe they're in private individuals, but the most like technical consistent flow in cryptocurrencies is definitely the shift between altcoins and Bitcoin in general, right? So Adidas stock slides as it drops. Kanye, what is the real cost to Adidas? See, we could also wade into the Kanye West controversy, man. Nah, I don't think that one would be a good one for us to wade into. I don't think that there are enough people out there that were buying Adidas because of Kanye West for it to really make a difference to their bottom line. Could be wrong, but I'm really suspicious about that theory. I'm just saying, like, now I'm just jumping into the pool, okay? Nobody sits there and says Kanye West is a voice of reason that I greatly respect because he's such a smart guy, and I just, whatever it is that he says I should buy or get into, I'm gonna follow and I'm gonna get into that. Nobody says that. Nobody says that. Yeah, it generates interest, advertising revenue, like, you get media about it for sure if it's Kanye West, but I don't think that Kanye West is a significant influencer because people trust his judgment. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that everything that comes out of Kanye West's mouth is nonsense. He's actually saying a few things that are kind of, I hope generate conversation. Let's put it that way. But he is also saying a lot of outright bullshit. Okay. Like this stuff that he's saying about Jews. Absolute bullshit, dude. Shut your mouth. It is so offensive to me. When people start saying like, oh, but the Jews, they hold all of these positions of power and yada yada. Well, guess what? There are a lot of Jews in New York, and if you're in New York, you're more likely to hold those media positions. Okay, it's not some global conspiracy. This idea that like they are trying to undermine society to create communism or some nonsense. It's total nonsense. And it offends me to see Kanye West saying those sorts of things and like encouraging conservatives to go down that rabbit hole. Don't go down that rabbit hole, guys. It leads to nowhere good. There. See, I waded in. It's offensive to me, Kanye. I guess this particular issue kind of makes me mad because when I worked for the big bank and I was doing my training in New York, like all of my best friends over there were Jewish, and I just thought they were the most fun, greatest people, and I admired their values and their culture and everything about it. And I just really like that group of people, I guess, because I feel like I have a connection to them somewhat because I have, because of the friendships that I formed when I was in New York. So when I see people spreading this kind of nonsense, it genuinely pisses me off. Okay, well, a little excursion above 26.5 here now. They got above the previous swing high. The swing high from just before the open was 28.5, so does kind of look like a decent flow long in the 10-year is kind of materializing. So not clear enough to know if this has legs or not, but it's going pretty okay so far. You guys didn't say anything about the Kanye West thing, so well, we have nothing to add. I don't know if that means like, oh, we all agree with you, or like we're afraid to even say anything about it, or if you didn't like what I said. Oh man, it's okay. Where So I'm not really seeing it. So this move that we're seeing to the upside in the treasuries, once again, seems to be isolated to itself. I mean, I am seeing maybe the 6J come up, but I kind of, it's not very strong. I think, if anything, the 6J is maybe following the treasuries and not the other way around. Tom Gunn says agree. Okay, good. Okay, good. I don't have any anti-Semitic racists in my stream. That's good. If you're an anti-Semitic racist, go away. Okay. Listen, here's the other part that bothers me about it. I made a post about this on Reddit. I don't think that anybody read it. Because I don't think I didn't see any like upvotes on it or anything like that. Okay, but like this guy, Mr. Sunak, he's Prime Minister of Great Britain now. And when you go into the US conservative subs, they're all like, oh, he's a diversity hire. He's a part of the global Jewish World Economic Consortium cabal, etc., etc., etc. I'm like, come on, guys, like, you realize how much you're hurting yourselves right now? Like, this is like the conservative moment. So people don't understand. Like, we're concerned about China. We need to do stuff about China and Russia. Conservatives have been saying that for the last 10 years. Well, certainly ever since Russia invaded Crimea. You know, remember when Mitt Romney said that Russia was our greatest geopolitical foe and Obama made fun of that? Yeah. Okay. But like the thing, conservatives were right. Everybody agrees now that conservatives, well, I mean, they won't admit it, but everybody agrees now. Yeah, Russia jumped the shark. And now with what we've seen from the Chinese Congress, I think it's pretty clear that China is a Marxist state, a Bolshevik state. And yeah, we were right. Okay. And then conservatives said, you keep printing all of this money. Eventually, when you have a real downturn, and you create inflation, and then it's going to totally screw your economies up, because everything that you've been doing to prop up those economies, you won't be able to do anymore. And guess what? They were right. So we've all seen this over the past year. They were right. So conservatives, you were right. Okay. And people are acknowledging it. The conservatives have been in power in the UK for quite some time. In the United States, the conservatives are on the rise and are probably going to take things in this election, and it sounds like that they're going to take the Senate. It's happening in Canada and Australia too, to some extent, and it happened in Italy. We have a conservative person in Italy now. It's just like across the board. Okay, so like, this is actually, if you think about it, this is the conservative moment now. I'm kind of a conservative, so let's say it's our moment. So speaking to you conservatives, I know that not everybody on the stream is conservative, but speaking to you conservatives, this is our moment. Don't you see? So this is a moment similar to, or an opportunity, let's say, similar to the Reagan years, where we can come in and show what we can do. So the focus now should be on governing. What are the policies that we're going to put in place that are going to fix all of these problems? And how do we ensure that we govern well? How do we ensure that we don't just put people in power that just want the power and do dumb things and don't know what they're doing? Make sure that we got smart people and that we have smart policy, right? That's what we should be thinking about as conservatives. And what are people talking about? There's a global conspiracy with the World Economic Forum, and this guy is a diversity hire and blah, blah, blah. Are you effing kidding me, guys? There's your moment, and you can't let go of racism and conspiracy theories, right? Yeah, Sunak is a World Economic Forum guy. American right-wingers ain't big on the World Economic Forum. Well, okay, so let's talk about the World Economic Forum. Okay, so people seem to have this idea that the World Economic Forum is like a death cult or something. That it's like you get into the death cult and then you have to do what they tell you, and you all work towards the globalist cabal's evil goals. That's not what it is. Okay. The World Economic Forum is an institution created way back in the 70s for rich people to join so that they can collaborate and advocate globalist policies. Yes. So globalist policies, but really it's about economic development. So I think that to some extent, the World Economic Forum is going to have to adjust here because the world is kind of changing, and that changes that countries need to develop their own supply chains more. Okay, so the more that we can develop our own supply chains and do so effectively, the better it's going to be for the world economy. And then hopefully we can get back to, in some point in the future, a more free trade in the world when when we can kind of get bad actors to stop being bad actors, right? So when they have their big their yearly meeting, right? You come in and you have an idea and you're presenting it to the other people. So it's more like a TED Talk, okay? So, I mean, the main World Economic Forum spokesperson wrote a book called The Great Reset and dresses like an alien doesn't really help their case. Well, okay, so there are individuals there that they really strongly believe in these globalist things, right? And it has a lot to do with the world that they live in, that it's been globalist. So they, I think that they're kind of, how do we say it, like disconnected from reality to some extent, right? Like, man, the one that's I've been seeing going around lately is that they had one presentation about bugs, like eating bugs, and like in Australia, there was kids were eating potato chips that had grasshopper protein in it, right? Okay, so one person at the World Economic Forum making a presentation about bugs being a good idea doesn't mean that that's the World Economic Forum's policy or something like that, right? It just means that's the sort of thing that group of people are promoting. Okay, they're not a monolith, right? The World Economic Forum is not a monolith that control the world. Okay, there are organizations like that out there apparently, but I don't think we actually know what they are. But I think it's actually, the reality is in some respects worse. You have to understand the reality is in some respects worse. Okay. When people's incentives align up with each other, they know what to do and they act in their interests, and they will do so in a way that direct coordination could never do. They can coordinate more effectively than direct coordination never could when people's incentives are aligned. That's I think a really key piece of information to understand if you ever are running any kind of organization or leading, right? You can get everybody's incentives aligned with each other. They will work together in ways that just trying to communicate and use teamwork can never do, right? So everybody just knows what they need to do to help themselves. So that's what people know the best, is what helps them. And if you can get to a situation where doing what helps me helps everybody else around me, that's when things, you really get strong, powerful, effective teamwork. It's not that we think they control everything like an evil cabal. That's a red herring. It's a think tank with disagreeable. Yeah, it is. That's exactly what it is. It's a think tank. It's a consortium. It's a forum. It's the World Economic Forum. It's a forum with that their current ideas are disagreeable, right? So if a person is a part of the World Economic Forum, what does that mean? That means that they are rich and that they are interested in working together with other rich people to determine what is the best policy. So to have a person, he is conservative and also a part of the World Economic Forum, in my book, that's a big benefit, because he understands how those people think, but he also knows where they're wrong, right? And he's going to be able to come in and do the right things for the markets and for the economy, but not get into all of the stupid, crazy ideas that some of these globalists have, right? That was the whole point, right? So the whole point was Sunak being a part of the World Economic Forum does not mean that the UK government has been taken over by globalists or something like that. Okay, that's not what that means, right? But it's born out of a conspiracy theories based around the World Economic Forum, right? And why does the World Economic Forum generate all of the conspiracy theories? Well, because it's a forum. So not any idiot, but listen, rich people have stupid ideas too. Okay? A lot of people that are rich, they're not rich because they're like the most brilliant minds. A lot of them are rich just because they were lucky or whatever. They're not very good. The rich, in my experience, the rich are not very good at knowing what they don't know, because they've just been praised. They're just praised by everybody. Everybody kisses the ground that they walk on, and every piece of advice that they give is solid advice in the way that you want to live their life, right? They don't know what they don't know. They're never forced to have humility, many of them, right? And that's why you get the sort of things that they put at the World Economic Forum, right? But it's not because there's some evil conspiracy that's against Western values to collapse the West or something, you know. No. It's more of a left-wing reactionary party and policies, not center-right. Oh, we're talking about the government in the UK. Well, the government in the UK is kind of interesting because as far as I can tell, they are conservative in much the same way that US conservatives are conservative. They prefer free markets. They are social conservatives. And what's the other? Oh, I don't know about what they believe in foreign policy, but think that they've been foreign policy conservatives, which is to say that they are largely against foreign intervention, right? So they line up with US conservatives, but because they have, socialized healthcare in the UK, for instance, right? That, they still have to have a certain amount of socialism in there. But US conservatives do the same thing, right? US conservatives, only the very far right and the libertarians are like, yeah, let's get rid of Social Security, for instance. Wow, so there was a big stack there at 26.5, and I was wondering if it was a spoof and if they were gonna, anything weird was gonna happen off of it, and they filled him. Somebody sold 1962 into it. You got a lot of friends that make less than 6 figures a year. Like, how many people? Well, I mean, right now, I don't have very many friends in general. No. Dude, since the pandemic, I don't talk to very many people, right? And the people that live immediately around me are actually do quite well. We got lawyers and accountants and stuff on our street. So, but before that, definitely that was the case, that I knew a lot of people that weren't. It's pretty obvious you don't talk to people outside of the managerial laptop class. Oh yeah, well that's like right now that's the case. Before I got divorced, so pre 2013, 2014, I spent a lot of time talking to people that are just in the service sector. Well, right, like people that were bartenders and worked retail. I guess you have your religion, but beyond that, you sound pretty progressive. Well, so this is where I think it's kind of interesting, is that to me, what does conservative mean? Okay. Conservative is the 3-pronged footstool of conservative: economic, foreign policy, and social conservative. So social conservatives is the one that's been most associated with conservatives in the United States in particular. And the social conservative thinks that society functions best when we have strong nuclear families that are composed of a husband and wife and their children. I 100% full-heartedly believe in that. Society, people are happier and society functions best when we have strong nuclear families. And there are a lot of things and social movements and stuff going on that are weakening the family. And a lot of the problems that we have in America now stem from that. Okay, so I'm definitely socially conservative. Okay. Now, economically conservative, and this is the one that really concerns us here. What does it mean to be economically conservative? Well, I don't think that being economically conservative means that you are libertarian, right? Republicans are not libertarians, okay? Well, conservative in many respects means that there are things that we can learn from the past, and that the way things are kind of, there's reasons why they are that way, and that, yeah, we do need change, but there's a certain way that we need to go about it, right? So we have learned a lot of things in the last 100 years about economics. Okay, we've had more progress, both in terms of development of our economies, but also in development of the field of economics in the last 100 years than in any other time, right? And one of the things that we have learned is that the government can stimulate the economy, and that they can actually spend money and get more back out of that with their investments. Just like any other kind of investment, you put money into a company and it should grow over time. Governments can do that too. They can invest in themselves, and there's this whole science around what is the multiplier that you get. What are you actually getting out of that policy? And how does the current interest rates and all these other things about the economic environment affect that, so that you can try and stimulate the economy in the most effective way? So for instance, the one that we've found has been the most effective is unemployment insurance. Okay. So yeah, I believe in unemployment insurance. It's like a really great program. Okay. Social Security. Well, I would rather manage the money myself, but the reality is that most people don't. Most people don't save. And that when we have a large portion of the elderly that didn't save and they have to take care of themselves, that creates a significant burden on society, so much so that it is actually to our economic advantage to have a program like Social Security. That's basically what we learned from Social Security. Okay. So this is why very, very few people dispute these things, right? Okay. So does that mean that I'm not economically conservative? No, I am economically conservative. It's just that there are a lot of whack jobs on the right that are really more libertarian, laissez-faire kind of nut jobs than anything else, right? Right? But like here's the thing, is that I am economically conservative. I think that systems are complicated, that we have to go about it in a smart way. We have to do a lot of research, that we should, allow local control of governments, and they can try certain things, and then we can kind of see which of those things are working well, and maybe they might apply at a federal level. And that's kind of like my approach to it. So it is conservative, right? But the problem is that a lot of conservatives, well, not a lot of, let's say a lot of people in the Republican Party have ideas that aren't really economically conservative. They're just based on conspiracy theories. Okay. They have conspiracy theories about the way that the Federal Reserve works, and they think that the world would be better if we banned the Federal Reserve. That's really what that comes down to, right? Well, the difference between me and those people is that I actually know what I'm talking about. I have, so what happens? What happens is you go and you watch a YouTube video and you learn about the Federal Reserve from somebody that doesn't like the Federal Reserve, and they say, oh, well, the Federal Reserve is actually a private institution. They pay dividends to the banks. Well, yeah, but the majority of their profits goes back to the Treasury. The board is chosen by the government. It's created by a government law. It's so to call it like a private bank is really kind of silly. Okay, and they have a mandate, and they fill their mandate very well, which is maximum employment and price stability, right? So the problem is that you got a lot of people that just kind of have like a surface level understanding of the monetary system. And once you go deeper and you really understand the system, I think that it really destroys a lot of those conspiracy theories, but it also brings up a lot of other problems too, right? For instance, are we actually selecting the best people for the Federal Reserve? I think that the people at the Federal Reserve are really smart. I think that it's kind of a mistake to try and make a system that is dependent on having smart people to function well. So in that respect, the Federal Reserve has done very, very well, because you get these people you get put in there. If they're not experts, they become experts because they have so much support over there. Okay, and these people really are smart, right? But I would rather Jamie Dimon be head of the Federal Reserve, if I'm honest. I don't hate Jerome Powell. I just think Jamie Dimon would be better. You know? So is that sort of a thing? So does that make me not conservative? No. Right? The disconnect between you people who make loads of money on your computers and those of us cleaning your toilets is staggering. You have all the time in the world to Reddit your way through academic theories and math while we're just trying to buy groceries. Well, that's true. That's true. So like here's where I see the problem in society today, to be honest with you, is that I think that what it really comes down to is that the easy problems have been solved, right? Like, look, it's not like it was an easy problem. Okay, because it took us literally, millions of years to figure it out, but you shouldn't enslave other people, right? That took us a while to figure out. That was a tough problem to solve, but we solved it. Okay, what other serious problems are there in society to solve that just have a simple solution? There aren't many. Our great grandparents solved most of them, right? So the problem that we have today is that the problems are all really complicated problems that have and usually it's either that it's so complicated that we can't figure out the real dynamics of the system yet, and maybe computers will help us in the future. It's either that, or there are certain incentives and existing powers that make it very difficult to implement the change that is necessary, right? Okay. So like when it comes to the average person, where are the problems? Where are the problems that are putting people that are in the working class? Let's call it the working class, because things are pretty shit for the working class right now. What are the things that are creating that problem? Well, I'll tell you, because I think I know, to be honest with you. Because I think that we pushed all of our jobs overseas. I think that in exchange for free trade, we said we need to be completely open, and that exposed us to all of the competition from around the world. And how do you compete when other countries are literally willing to pay people slave wages? How do you compete in that situation? You can't. And so this liberalization of trade, it went too far. We should have free trade, but only in as much as other countries play by the rules. And if they're not playing by the rules, then we should have restrictions, and we should protect ourselves from them. And what happened was that the people in power, they make money from it being more free, right? And it doesn't matter to them that some people are just basically picking up scraps, right? And so they continued to push the policies that pushed the jobs overseas to the detriment of everybody else, right? That's what happened. In my opinion, that's what happened. So how do you fix that? Like I said, the easy problems have been solved. But you know what? This is a hard problem that we've been battling now for 50 years, because this really started in the 70s, right? So it's something that we've been battling for 50 years. And I really think that over the last 3 years that we've seen a big shift in that, because we are now understanding the downsides of some of these policies, and particularly the downsides of bringing in actors like China and Russia that were not behaving. And in this attempt to try and, persuade them to be better actors and move away from communism, in actuality, they were just kind of playing us the fool the whole time and kind of biding their time before they could go full on communist again. At least that's what China's doing, right? So I think that people understand this now, and it is going to shift. You watch. Especially you get a Republican in charge, but over the next 4 to 10 years, I think that you're going to see a shift towards a greater focus on local supply chains, and that it will be to the benefit of working class people. Now, along the way, there's going to be pain, because some working class people aren't being paid what they actually deserve, and they're going to have to be paid more. And so what does that mean? Inflation. Yeah. What's going to happen? It's going to happen. Right? So I am insulated. Well, I'm also insulated from progressive policies. Right? But, well, because I live in Utah. Right? But it makes it very easy to see where certain progressive policies are just really dumb, right? Right? But see, it's not here on policy, right? It's like, what is the policy that we're talking? So what is a policy? Can you give me an example? What is a policy that you think I believe in, that you think is harmful to working class people? You could easily ignore politics in general and be fine the rest of your life? No, I'd be profoundly bored. I mean, I don't know what to say. Don't vote for Democrats. The thing is you got to understand that a lot of really smart people are Democrats, right? So a lot of things in terms of like, why not vote for Democrats? It's the current Democrat Party, okay? Like, if you've got a Democrat that's like Bill Clinton, and he seems like he's a good guy, then go for it. But the current Democrat Party is kind of toxic. And there's a very, very good reasons why they're losing so many, right? Like you say, all the big brains are over there. The big brains are good for us dumbs. Well, it's not that the big brains are good for us dumbs, right? It's that you need both, right? So I am not a populist, okay? So I do not agree with this whole idea that like these people, they think they're so smart, but they don't know anything, and we need to just ignore them and do what we believe is common sense. I don't agree with that. I think that there's a lot of really good economic research. There's a lot of things. Economics is a complicated subject, and if you think that you understand economics really well, and you've never taken a class on it, and you've never interacted with the markets and followed, done what we're doing here, I don't think that you can really say that you actually understand economics very well, right? But what is the downside of it? It's not that they know. It's part of it is that they don't know what they don't know, is part of it. But the other part of it is that incentives become misaligned. So if you have a different incentive from the rest of the country, then you're likely to take an action that is unfavorable for the rest of the country and then come up with some sort of scientific explanation after the fact, right? It's just like with the COVID restrictions, right? The science behind COVID and what was the optimal course of action was always there. We knew it the whole time. What happened? The politicians took it too far and made restrictions that were more than what the science suggested. Why? Because their incentive was to not get COVID. And it didn't matter to them that it hurt working class people, right? That's why you have to have both people working together, right? So when we come in and we say, well, we don't like them smarty pants people. Well, okay, you can go down that route, but I promise you that it doesn't end well. What you need is a conservative approach. You need to have smart people in office and smart policymakers, and you need to have very distributed power, right? And you need to have everybody involved in the decision making, and you need to carefully consider your decisions before you make them, etc., and make sure that they benefit everybody, right? That is actually conservative. That is actually conservative, right? Ultimately, in the grand scheme of things, people like you will be programming most of. No, it's not going to work out that way. So the number of computer programmers, the percentage of computer programmers in the society is certainly going to grow. Okay. But, what will happen is the work will always expand to the time allotted, right? People aren't just going to sit at home. So, by kind of freeing up some of these more boring clerical jobs, really what it does is it frees people up to pursue more creative pursuits instead. But then you're still always going to need people to come and build and fix things, right? And if anything, building and fixing things will only become more valuable as things become more complicated, right? A whole utopia of artists making art worthless. Well, no, I don't think that's the case, because so what you're saying is we'll produce so much art that the art will become useless, right? So the first thing is that art properly valued is really quite expensive. But the problem is that because it's not very valued unless you're like at the top of your field, a lot of low-level artists don't make anything from it, right? So if we get to a point where the economy, that content creation of sorts is a more significant part of the economy, the work that the lower level content creators or artists or whatever do should become more fairly valued, because there will be more of an economy around it, and so the prices will be better established, we should say. So I think that should work to their benefit. Art properly valued is worth the paper, paint, and hourly wage for the hours spent on making it. Nothing more. Oh, that's definitely not true. Right? You just think of it this way. It's not about like you're in an artistic job or you're not or anything like that. what it comes down to is productivity, right? So the automation of things allows people to be more productive. So the jobs that we do end up doing, you'll be more productive. So if you're more productive, you should make more. Okay. In the recent past, you haven't been making more per hour because a lot of those increases in productivity went towards better benefits like healthcare and so forth, right? So that's another, if you were to talk about number 2 problem in the United States, at least, it is healthcare. And all of the progressive solutions for healthcare are just disastrous as far as I can tell. Man, we're getting another really strong uptrend here in the treasuries. And again, it comes seemingly out of nowhere. And they were super sneaky about it at first, too. They were super sneaky about it, weren't they? I think the deeper thing that's going on here is that is the kind of the pushback against the intellectual class, right? So there's a big problem there. So we need to have smart people in making policy, or in order to continue progressing, because the challenges are going to become more complicated. We're going to need to become more sophisticated in our policy making, for sure. Okay. But there's a real problem in academia right now, right? The intellectual class would be more tolerable if it weren't so damn patronizing. Yeah. Well, that so many in the intellectual class refuse to acknowledge the problems in academia is a really big part of the problem, isn't it? Right? There's so many studies are published out there that, especially in the social sciences, right, that are 100% politics and not science, right? And there are a lot of papers out there based on flawed statistics and stuff, right? So you got all of these people doing studies on nonsense that doesn't add anything to society. It just gets them their credentials and stuff. It's just total crap. It's just really dumb, right? The same thing happens in Hollywood, by the way, right? Because in Hollywood, the most important thing is getting your name on the project, right? So that you can get your name on other big projects, right? And that's how the way that Hollywood works, and frankly, the way that academia works in some professions, encourages failing up, right? It encourages failing up. That's not good for us, is it? Right? And the people down where these policies affect you, they can see it, and the intellectual class can't. Like the Democrats especially, they can't see it, and it's kind of funny because it's so glaringly obvious, right? The smartest people in academia see it. Guys like Nassim Taleb, they see it, right? That's the problem there. So that one is a bigger problem, right? How do you, because we're talking about a system, we're talking about a whole social system. How do you change that system to function better? I don't know. I don't know how you do it. I don't have any answers. There's some problems in politics with money, that politicians, they get buddy with the lobbyists, and then when they're no longer a senator, they go and become a lobbyist. And I think it was, I don't remember who it was, some guy that was convicted of fraud for doing this sort of a thing. He said, well, here's how I would change things. Ban lawmakers from going into lobbying. Good idea. Somebody that's really intimately involved in it. I've never made research papers, so I'm probably, I can see the problem, but I'm not educated enough on that system to really know what we should change. Social media ruined the intellectual class. The craziest thing to me is seeing credentialed people act like teenagers on Snapchat. Well, social media definitely ruined politics, I tell you that. Yeah, that's one problem over that side of the pond, lobbying. Over this side, we call it corruption. Yeah. I mean, like, so this is where, again, it kind of gets complicated, right? So, some people say we should just ban lobbying. I don't think that that's right. How are you going to teach politicians about things, right? Like if you're, listen, let's say that I became a senator tomorrow, okay? And I get put on the financial services committee, right? Okay. Well, I know a lot about finance. I do. But you know what? I do not know enough to make legislation about it. I just don't, right? I would need the assistance of a large body of people to be able to do that. And part of the people that I would want to be involved on my team would be people from the banks that are their job is specifically to help us craft legislation about the financial industry, to understand the financial industry's perspective on things, right? So that should exist. It's just, it shouldn't be that I only do exactly what the financial industry tells me to do, or else I can't get elected again, right? There's the problem there. So how does social media play into this? Well, what's happened with social media is everybody knows what's going on in politics now, right? Everybody knows what's going on in politics now. So it used to be the case that a senator could sit down, study the issue, work together with their team, and through this collaborative process of doing things, you would get together and you could make good legislation, right? But what happens now is you have to do what the people on the internet want you to do, right? And so the people on the internet kind of prevent that sort of like the thing that makes a representative democracy strong is that you're putting a person in that position that they can just spend all of their time learning about issues for the purpose of voting, right? And because where democracy fails is when the populace is not educated, and it's impossible for the populace to be educated on very, very sophisticated issues, right? So having a senator that can study the issue, that's really, really strong. But if they can't make the decisions that they want to make because everybody on the internet will know and punish them for it, then you kind of have a real problem, right? Because now what you've done is you've basically destroyed representative democracy. It's become more like a pure democracy again. Although, to some extent, it's not to some extent. It's kind of issue by issue, right? Because there's still the case that the legislation goes the way that rich people want and not the general public, right? Oh yeah, so we got Bank of Canada rate decision. I am just hearing it over the clock now. They're reminding me. Octavius, I would vote to impeach you. Thank you, Octavius. Social media didn't increase transparency. That's what bothers me the most. You're totally right. I agree with that. Like just the reality, like the thing that I'm getting at with social media is that it's not a good thing for everybody to be engaged in everything all the time, right? There are some people like myself that's what our chosen path is in life, is to be 100% engaged in the market. That's the choice that I've made. I can do that, okay? It would not be a good thing if 100% of people were like me, were as engaged in the markets as I am. It wouldn't be a good thing. It wouldn't. Because not everybody is built for that. Not everybody is built for the politics, right? So this is one that actually has, then we kind of come to what it actually means for you, right? Because what it really means for you is that you should pick a couple of things and you should try to become an expert in those things. And there are going to be other things that you're not an expert in, and as successful as you become in your primary competencies, you need to avoid the temptation to make you to let that trick you into thinking that you're an expert on everything and stay in your lane. That's what I believe. Is that a conservative idea? I think it is. I think it is a conservative idea. But you tell me. You should put it to a vote to every person in your constituency and do what it turns out to be the conservative that you preach. Well, I don't think that absolute democracy is conservative, though. Right? I think that the conservative take on that is that existing power structures exist for a reason, and that the progressive policy, the liberal way of doing things, is absolute democracy. And if we go to absolute democracy, we lose the advantages that created those power structures. Absolute decentralization. I do think that there are some places in politics today where things could be decentralized a little bit. Yeah. I think that the most clear example of that is that there are a lot of things that are done at the federal level that should just be left to states and cities. Right? You have to leave? Oh, you just got here, Tobias. Gonna leave just before the Bank of Canada decision? Really? Well, here it comes. You think that we're gonna get a move here in the Treasuries off of the Bank of Canada rate statement? This could be interesting. Also, we also get new home sales change month over month. We're expecting a reading of negative 15.3. Wow, that's a really ugly number. Negative 15.3% month over month. Clearly, not everybody wants to hear about Seth's conservative politics because it's a relatively low viewer stream today. But you know what? I'm willing to lose viewers over this stuff because what's the larger point here from Seth? Oh, wait, let's wait. The larger point is, hey, listen, at some point, millennials are going to get the power and we need to be ready for it. And I don't think we are. Yeah, they are pulling their liquidity for all this. Ooh. 50 basis point hike from the Canadian, and the new home sales change was negative 10.9 versus an expected negative 15.3. Wowzer. Interest rates did not move as much as the Treasury did there. I don't think I'm not going to trade it, but there they are. I'm like, I think that you could just hit into those prices at least to 4%. Okay, so I'm just babbling because my bid at 110 and 22 half in ZN got left behind. Oh, you never got filled? That sucks. Good trade. Well, I haven't said anything about it on the stream yet today, but I strongly suspect, let's say, that the movement that we saw yesterday is kind of a hint at a shift in regime, and that the suggestion that the Treasury Department could buy back bonds is in particular a significant development. And I wanted to take it for a swing. So I've been in this since yesterday. It's going to be a big liquidity hole on off all of this, though. I were heard that before, then no shift. So tell me this, actually, because I listed out a couple of places where I thought that U.S. and U.K. conservatives were similar. Were those wrong? Do UK conservatives not view social conservatism the same way? Do not view economic conservatism the same way? I'll tell you where the place where I think they differ, and let's not say that they differ, but you would think that US and UK conservatives would say, oh, we're on the same team, and so they would try and say things and do things to try and help each other across the pond. And more often than not, I've seen UK conservatives undermine US conservatives. Like, for instance, when Mitt Romney was running in the UK, Boris Johnson, said, trashed Mitt Romney, right? Wasn't helpful. Was he really a conservative? Well, nobody at the time, nobody that was a Republican right then thought that he was on our team, right? And that's happened many, many, many times. Like, the conservatives in the U.S. identified more with Tony Blair, who was a liberal. Like, what? Okay, whatever. It was just because of that one issue, I guess. UK conservative is more about having the most global reach. They were the party of imperialism. Even today, their policies are about having global influence. Okay, that's a very astute observation of the differences, for sure. I think I would argue that in the past, that US conservatives were also more globalist. But since George Bush's time, that has shifted, and all of a sudden, the Republicans are the anti-globalist party, right? Like 30 years ago, the left were the ones that were anti-globalist, and the right were the ones that were pro-globalism, right? And then that shifted around because of big tech, right? UK liberals are more about our home, our people get our home, should be ordered to leave the world to itself. Yeah, you're saying that liberals are more foreign policy conservative, or at least they oppose foreign intervention. It really is a weird thing, I think. Basically what I'm saying is that there are some places where US conservatives are not actually truly conservative, right? Because US conservatives as a whole right now, even still, are generally hawkish and supportive of foreign intervention. And that's really not the conservative, from the strictest definition of conservative, that's really not a conservative foreign policy, right? So I think the reality is more that there are some places where U.S. conservatives aren't actually conservative, which is why the far right is always complaining about their party, right? I think technology will be playing a bigger role in government. Our government is outdated. Instead of parties, we should focus on the individual ideas. Technology allows us to do this. I think when I look at technology, I feel like that there are, oh, by the way, I should probably take at least one contract off here on my sim trade. I think that you give the internet a couple hundred years. You know, one of the things that I see on the internet is that we haven't really built the social structures and everything. You know, probably a lot of the problems that we have with the internet in today's society are growing pains, right? Like one of the things that I see that happens on the internet that I think is a big problem and everybody just kind of looks the other way about is kids on the internet. Okay. Your 12-year-old son should not be playing Fortnite with 30-year-olds. That's not okay. And it's not good for your kids. Okay. Unless they're playing with you. Okay. But it's like, that's not okay. Right. And what's happening in a lot of online discussions is that kids are the ones with the time to sit and yeah, like especially teenagers, right? Teenagers will come in and be yaps. So you're going and you're on Reddit and you think that you're reading informed political opinions, or you're arguing with informed fellow interested political people, and the reality is that you're arguing with teenagers, and these adults don't even realize it. I think there's a lot of that going on. And as time goes on, I would expect that we would start to see more social structures created on the internet that are similar to the social structures that we see in real life, right? In real life, you know, of course, we don't want our kids to think that like they're dumb and that their opinions don't matter or anything. Okay, but we give you more responsibility as you get older, right? I really think that like, I know this would be like a super unpopular policy, so it's probably never going to happen, but I think that video game makers should be required by law to separate their player bases by age. I think that there should be an under 18 matchmaking and an over 18 matchmaking. Or maybe we could separate it at 16. Let's say 16. Imagine a protest where there's a total blackout of Google. You like that policy, huh? Roy Set? I think that would be a good policy. The kids would hate it though, right? So that would be like, there's nobody to play with. Yeah. But like, you know, people complain about, so for instance, in gaming, one of the controversial issues in gaming is misogyny. It's absolutely the case that if you're a woman and you play Call of Duty, that you get treated like crap. You know why? Because you're playing with teenagers. You playing with 30-year-olds, they wouldn't be like that. Not as bad, at least. Well, we had a really, really big jump after that Canadian news, or after the Canadian rate change, right? It looks like we've retraced most of that now. Well, a little bit of downside action. Definitely the flow today has been to the long side. This swing trade that I've got on here it feels a little weird to me because I took it yesterday. I watched it till the close like a hawk. And then I walked away after that time. It was like I walked away. Okay, it opened back up. And then I walked away and I completely forgot about it. And I wasn't worried about it at all. And I didn't expect it to go so well today. How would the 12-year-old Chad tell me about how he topped the Marine sniper school after killing? You know, like this is another thing is so I'm kind of becoming anti social media machine learning. So I think that machine learning is basically preventing humans from creating their own hierarchies online. We're relying on the algorithms to classify us and put us into groups on its own. and we're not actually creating the kind of communities that we had. Because when I was a kid, man, there was this forum that I would visit that forum every day, and I knew all of the people on that forum, and like we loved that website, man. That was we loved that website. And there was a point at which GameSpy came in and like tried to ruin the website, and like we revolted and went and made our own website and stuck together. Like it was a real community, right? And after Facebook, I have not seen anything even remotely close to that since. The centralization, what happened was they centralized all of the communities onto these big services, and then they put us all under the thumb of our robot overlords and prevented us from creating our own hierarchies. And if I was going to make my own social media networking site, I would make one where it's not like there wouldn't be any machine learning or anything, but I would be one where it would allow people to make their own hierarchies, and there would be a system in place that would encourage the hierarchies to go a certain way, you know. Like, and I would like to see groups of like 200 members max, groups of 200 members max that are just really close knit, because that's the way that people work. What are RBOB features? Is that the oh, that acronym sounds so familiar. Is that bonds for a certain country? What do you think Musk is going to do with Twitter? Probably some cryptocurrency bullshit that I hate. Probably. It's gas. Okay. Do you see like this? There was this whole thing of like, I think it was stuff that was from court documents. It was like text messages between Elon Musk and the CEO of Twitter. It sounded like he was planning some BS Twitter service, some BS crypto service. Now, whatever he does, as long as it results in the death of Twitter, will be good, of course. I think you are going to see some big changes on, yeah. It sounds like he's going to close the deal on Friday, right? As that's what he told them. So we'll probably see some big shifts. And I think that the left will quit Twitter en masse is probably what's going to happen. Yeah. What are your thoughts on Rumble? So I created a Rumble account. I made a channel and uploaded one video. It didn't really divert any viewers at all to my channel. So the thing, when you're a new platform, like if I were to speak to Rumble right now, here's what I'd tell them. The advantage of being a new platform is that it's easier for people to get visibility. So I should be able to make a channel and just upload a video and get views. Is you've got to get it to that kind of a spot. That's where, you know, because on TikTok, I can go on TikTok and I can make a TikTok without any followers or without directing anybody to it, and I get views, right? And that's why everybody's moving to TikTok. So if Rumble wants to be successful in the long run, I think that they kind of need to go that way. Overall, though, it does look like it's something with at least the potential to become an alternative to YouTube. Have you thought about streaming on TradingView along with Twitter? Well, so I haven't done TradingView specifically, but there are other platforms that have been trying to do trader streaming, and my general experience with this sort of thing has been that it doesn't really move the needle. Like Probably you should do it because it's not like it hurts or anything, and maybe you do get a few more viewers on it, but it's not a game changer or anything. Good, Rumble's good if you're trying to stay away from the YouTube narrative overlords on speech grounds. I don't know. I'm trying to think back on. There have definitely been some situations where somebody got banned and I vehemently disagreed with it, but most of the bans that I've seen recently, it's kind of been like, really, that's the hill that you decide to die on. Like, I'll give you an example. Steven Crowder. I think Steven Crowder is absolutely effing hilarious, and I like a lot of his content, and he's had some really great content, okay? But the thing that he got banned from YouTube for, that whole spat with that liberal, where he was basically name calling the liberal and making fun of him for being gay, really? That's the hill that you decide to die on? Come on, man. You got banned because you were immature. It's like that. It's like, oh, there's a creator that I like, and then they do something stupid. What about the actual Rumble stock? Oh, I haven't looked at it in a while. It looked like it was going okay. So the first of all, the analysis of specific securities is not my specialty. Okay. But if I was going to be looking at a stock like that, like, I would be interested primarily in like who's managing it and what their current strategic direction is and things like that. I don't know what that is with Rumble, right? When I was really involved in the Donald Trump SPAC, that was, I took quick profits on it, waiting for it to come back. It came back. I never got back in though, because I did not like what I was seeing with management. They put somebody in that had no management experience and no tech experience, and they're trying to manage a tech company. Well, like, what the hell is wrong with you guys? Of course it fell apart, right? So that's what I would ask with Rumble, is what in their leadership suggests that they'll be able to be effective at what they're doing, right? So, Vimeo, it's a really an uphill battle, right? Vimeo is a great website. They wanted to become an alternative to YouTube. I think they're still around, right? And they did a good job, and the leadership there did a good job in promoting it and everything. But like, at the end of the day, it's just people would rather watch stuff on YouTube, So that's about all I can say. What are your thoughts on the June 2023 quarterly secured overnight financing? Actually, the next group of stuff that I'm doing is going to be getting me a lot more up to date on short-term interest rates and financial instruments. Rumble has a lot of growing pains and needs some platform upgrades and UI fixes. Yeah. Like that, the thing that bothered me was that just like I went in and I made a video. It very clearly did not send it out to anybody. Didn't put it on anybody's page or anything. Like if I was making that service, I'd be like, okay, if it's the first video that anybody ever puts on, I'm more likely to recommend it to people, because I want people that put their first video up to get engagement, so that they want to upload more. Read the Stegan book cover to cover. You'll scratch the surface and then do it again. Oh man. Okay, so help me out here, because my concern with the Stegan book is that I'm worried that I'm going to have a very hard time staying engaged with it and learning a lot from it, because it's going to be a lot of stuff that I can't use practically, right? Like, I'm not, there's going to be instruments and stuff that I don't even have access to. Right. I have started reading it though. In fact, we'll do some reading tonight. I had some time to read it on Monday, but I studied my Series 65 more. I was hoping that maybe the Treasuries would start turning back up here a little bit, but they're still kind of struggling. They haven't touched 111 yet, but don't fall in the trap of jumping to or waiting for more. Why is that? So I'm actually the opposite. So there is a more modern text coming from a guy that I follow on LinkedIn that I'm actually quite excited for. And I really want to have read the Stegum book first so that I can compare. That's the fun part. Understanding those when they do get distilled in the public markets will give you understanding for public markets. Okay. You're saying, you know, in the instances where the euro dollar or the SOFR matters, I will know what's going on. And that can help me make some decisions over here in the 10-year. Yeah. See, I don't like seeing it that far away from where I reset things, but that's okay. So say you don't understand what a cross swap is. Cross swap. Well, I know what a swap is. The swap is where you swap one income stream for another. So you say you have income that comes from rents, and I have income that comes from something else. Would be a good example. Gold mining, and we swap our revenues. Understanding it theoretically and how it connects to the euro dollar. So maybe a cross swap is like swaps with different currencies. They touched 111 and they barged back through that pretty hard. Oh, okay. Seeing something happening in the euro dollar, you can hypothesize what the crosses are doing and how that would result in interest rates moving. Okay. Well, no fear. That's the book I'm reading now. That's the book I'm reading now. And then I want to read Fed Guy's book. Man, this downturn is pretty ugly. The 5-year is coming back hard. The 10-year is kind of, I think, getting dragged along. There's actually was some big icebergs and stuff against it, but the 5-year fell back so quickly. I wonder what's going on there. Maybe they're saying what the Bank of Canada doesn't matter because the new home sales did not decrease as much as expected. I don't know. Yes, cross swaps are pretty much swaps on two different interest rates denominated in different currencies. Gotcha. Ooh, so when we're talking about like, you know, people are going to move to this currency, buy this bonds more because of this interest rate. Swaps would be a more pure way of watching that behavior happen. See, like I just reset it and it's all the way back down again. I did get a contract pulled off up there at the top. So if I like when this kind of cools down and if I like it, I could take another sim long. The Bank of Canada is a rounding error, sir. Probably. I was so when I saw the move, you notice because I got this long on, I've got like this swing trade on. You notice I didn't get super excited about it, right? Like I said, wow, that looks like they should be going further, but it wasn't like, oh, I'm gonna get $100 and then I'll take profits or something. No, it wasn't like, why? Because I know that like a move like that is likely to be retraced and be the high. Because I can think of at least 2 situations in the past where the Bank of Canada did create a strong move in the US Treasuries, but it was not a lasting move in both of those cases. So now I think we're 3 for 3. You can get a big pop and then it retraces. Whereas because of how things moved on the home prices yesterday, I would think that new home sales change month over month would be a significant number. I don't know if it being 10 instead of 15 is like a huge deal or not, though. That one's kind of difficult too. So let's come over here and go to Forex Factory and look at the history of that particular metric. And I can see that it was not that big of a change. So it wasn't like a historic miss or anything like that. It was actually a mild miss, relatively speaking, from what we see on this chart. Basically, their estimate does not tend to be very close. Well, I was all like, maybe I can take a long again. At least on that leg, it looks like I missed my chance. At least on that leg. Also, steepening on the curve. Although that steepening was a retracement of the flattening that we saw earlier, so the yield curve is largely unchanged through the session. I think I've got a lot of work to do, guys. I watched this TikTok yesterday that was kind of weird. So this girl, she was saying that her mentor or something like that made millions of dollars from throwing house parties. I'm like, what? How do you do that? Well, after a big long story, the answer was that the gifts that people brought him were so valuable that it was basically worth $1 million. Okay. But she was like, well, he accepted other people as they were so radically. And she said, in order to do that, you have to radically accept yourself as who you are. And that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. I was like, yes, I can accept who I am now and be happy with who I am now. But part of being happy with who I am now is understanding that that's not going to be the person that I'm going to be tomorrow and the next day and the next day, because you're constantly changing, right? And so like radical acceptance of other people also will mean accepting that other people will change as well. That's kind of what a marriage is about, I think. Like if you get married in your early 20s, I guarantee you that by the time you're 50, you're both going to be different. Right? And so you just kind of have to roll with the punches. You know what I mean? And I still have a lot of things that I think I want to learn. And again, I keep thinking about this sort of thing where it's like, look, there are these boomers that have been around for a really long time, and they've stuck around longer than people used to. So millennials have been lulled into this sense that we're never going to be the ones in charge and we're never going to have our moment. And that's not what's going to happen. Right? The boomers are retiring in the next 10 years, and it's going to move to Gen X and millennials. So we need to be ready for those to happen. And there's going to be a time, right? There's going to be a time where Warren Buffett is not around. Who are people going to listen to when Warren Buffett's not around? Well, he has a successor, I think. He has a successor, right? But I'm just saying, there's going to be room in all industries, and people are going to have to step up. And are we ready to do that? I think we've got a ways to go. When's the next dating advice stream? I think we can only talk about dating advice on Fridays. Be good looking. Don't be not good looking. That's my advice for you today. Oh, Zach, have you considered options trading? I keep failing at dom trading. I think I'm going to switch. I like to take my time and think. I don't feel like I have the mental ability to process the info fast enough. Well, so first thing is with the dom trading, just understand that trading purely off of the dom, like trying to, I don't know anything that's going on, I'm only watching the order flow and trying to take trades based off of the order flow, it doesn't work. At least not anymore. You have to be informed. right? If you're informed, then you can use what you see in the order flow, and it is a different bit of a framework. So you watch my stylized behaviors of markets video and consider how you can use that to your advantage. You'll realize that it's a different approach from what the order flow pure dom traders are teaching you, typically speaking, right? So you have to be informed, and that's where the advantages come from. Okay. Options trading is a very different beast. Okay. So options trading, you're probably going to want to do some calculations and stuff. I mean, there are some instances where you can look at a specific thing happening and you can say, okay, like what I did with oil. Okay, I think oil is like, or Goldman Sachs thinks that oil is going to go to here, and I agree with them. But the market is currently pricing that it's only going to go to here, so I can buy the options and make money. Yes, buy the options for relatively just a little bit out of the money, and yeah, worked really well. But if you're going to be like regularly doing options, you're going to have a really good framework of determining what is a good price. So it's a completely different game. That's why I have 77 IQ, not good looking. Being rich helps too. So if you have enough money to swing euro dollar contracts, that can help. Oh man, they're coming back down to these lows again. They're gonna bust those. I think that this is just like retracement and or profit taking after the Canadian rate news, but it's a little hairy here. Have to say that up move was a little bit more than I expected today, but when I came in today, I did not realize it was Bank of Canada decision. Oh yeah, that always tends to be the ladies 15 to 20 years older find me good looking, not my age group one. Yeah, you've got to realize that social media has very much distorted our perceptions of the world, and that women have been particularly vulnerable and affected by this bias. So, like, women think that all guys are ugly now. But the way that you got to deal with that is you just got to get them in person somehow and be good in person. I'm wondering, let's see here. Michael Burry, Christian Bale wore some of my shirts and a tie and other things in the movie. You'd think I'd preserve those, but I care so little that I just kept wearing them out, and they're probably in a pile somewhere. But I'd have to watch the movie to identify them, and I won't do that. That's so funny. I don't agree with all of Michael Burry's takes, but I feel like he's our people, you know? I definitely feel like he's our people. That's exactly the way that I would be. It was like Christian Bale wore it in a movie. I wouldn't frame it and say my wife might, but I wouldn't. I would keep wearing it. Or he borrowed it. Okay, I'd keep wearing it. like the whole, you know, this whole thing with Steve Jobs where like his closet is just turtleneck sweaters and jeans and he just wears the same thing every day. I kind of like this way of thinking. I kind of think sometimes maybe I should just, I've never found a shirt that I think I love so much that I want to wear it every day. That I want like 10 of them and I want to wear it every day. But if I could find such a shirt, that would be awesome. And I could just wear that every day. That'd be great. I think it would need to be something somewhat professional. Man, actually, you see, that's, I'm not, I don't want to think about that right now. I think the question you're asking is something that I could sort out if I was looking at the numbers, but I don't think that I want to focus my brain power on that at the moment. Which option should I buy? I think the 10-year yield is going to a certain place, but the money straddle is quoting something else. The premium for the 1 month risk-free rate is being priced in is higher than the 1 month euro-dollar rate, and the 1 month at the money option and TN is implying the exactly opposite demand. Oh. Then that implies that the yield curve is going to flatten, right? It might depend on which direction, but that would be the sort of thing that would cause the yield curve to shift, right? Because what the short end of the curve is pricing in is different from what the long end of the curve is pricing in. Okay, so there was a little breach and maybe a bit of a stop run and then aggressive pushback to the range. See, if we had gotten, let's say that this session, the high of this session was 111 even, I would have been happy with that. That's kind of what I thought was going to happen after it being so slow earlier. Oh, no idea what that implies. I'm simply saying the market is out of whack. Oh, okay, yeah, sure. Well, what you're saying is, let's try and distill what you were just teaching there into something that people can relate and understand just a little bit better. Okay, you can use one asset to try and price another asset and see how fairly those two assets are priced relative to each other, to try and detect a mispricing in the market. And you can do that with futures too. You can come in and you can say, well, the 30-year is really moving, but the 10-year is not. What's with that? The dollar is really moving, but the treasuries are not. What's with that? Or I would expect all of the correlations to be this way, and they're this way. What might that tell me about the current macroeconomic environment? Because that kind of tells you where the money is coming from and going to. And the money coming from and going to places is the sort of thing that can create temporary mispricings in the market. Oh, they were both down. Okay. Okay. I misread it then. I heard the 1 month euro dollar rate and I said, oh, okay, that sounds like the short term interest rates are out of whack compared to the long term ones. Or one or the other or both are out of whack. Let's see here. The risk-free rate the option is implying for the date to expiry is higher than the same duration euro dollar implied rate. Oh, okay. So you're saying that I should use the euro dollar rate to determine the rate. So I should be looking at, like, based on the risk-free rate and how much there is to the expiration, that should be factored into the price, but it's different. So I know after doing my calculation that the price in the market is not my price, correct? Yeah. Yeah, that's what I was getting. That's it. So Zach, that's the sort of thing that you want to be doing if you're going to do it, if you're going to go into options, right? Is you come in and you say, I think the treasuries are going to move higher. And where do I think that the treasuries might go? Okay. And then I'm going to come over here and I'm going to look at the options and I'm going to try and calculate what I think the option should be and what the option is right now. Say, okay, would be a fair price. Maybe even do it dynamically, right? And shift your price and hope that somebody is really desperate to sell and they sell into you. That sort of a thing, right? That's how those guys make big money off of options, right? See, I would like to see them at least get to 111 and stay up there, but kind of feels like that's where the selling starts to come in. I don't know if this move down was really there was definitely like some selling in the 5-year and everything, but overall it kind of looks like a wash now. So it may just be people getting off sides and falling into the liquidity hole and things like that. So I don't see why we couldn't just chill around the prices that we were at before the news. Yeah, there you go. Just read dynamic hedging. Well, Taleb, he has a video about a model to price out. He literally shows you the model that he used to make his fortune in one of his videos. And it's really simple too. I don't remember anything about it other than that it wasn't that complicated. It was something that any of us could probably do. I guess people are still arguing about this Fetterman-Oz debate because Glenn Greenwald is complaining about it now. That people are saying that questioning his cognitive abilities is off limits. It's not. The guy had a stroke. It's very pertinent to the job. Oh, yeah, okay. Carl Quintilla tweets S&P green, and I'm like, well, yeah, it's been green for a while, isn't it? Maybe we're just right at, you're right, that was yesterday's close. Seems to me that when we came in here this morning that would have been a good place to buy the S&P 500, but I wasn't really paying too much attention. Yeah, don't do that now. He used to sell at the money box spread. It was fantastic when there was no smile and the volatility. Yeah, I'm sure. Well, I think that it would be a good place to start, right? Now you'll be dying a death of 1,000 cuts. It just gets harder and harder, doesn't it, right? I'm telling you guys, the easiest thing to do is to just know what's going to happen. Right? Okay, come on. Let's take 111 bid. Freaking phone. Why did I have it all the way over there? And who would call me from Texas? Probably spam. Probably spam. It kind of bothers me that they can't. Okay, there you go. Now a 900 bid at 111. Now I'm happy. Oh, and it only 231. Come on. Well, let's just be happy that it went bid. It went bid. I'm happy now. It's 8:46. We talked about dating. We talked about life in the future. Pissed people off, I think. Good stream. That's a good stream, right? See, I think the issue, I think the issue that I have is that I'll take on like a controversial subject, but like I'll have a take that nobody wants to hear. Like I'm probably right, but nobody wants to hear that one, right? What I need to do is I need to find a controversial issue and just take a side, right? The Congressman Fetterman, he seems to lack the cognitive ability to be in office now. He should not have run for office. Is that good enough? Is that going to cause? Is there anybody going to come and argue with me? No, see, that's a problem. This is a problem with you guys. Is that like, if I actually take a position on like a really controversial subject, you probably agree with. Most of you guys probably agree with me on it. So it doesn't end up being controversial. Hey, that's a little bit better there. He actually took further than 111. How are things going? Like it really looks like a bid across the board. Bid across the board. Now, this begs the question, should rates be below 4%? We went right to 4% in the micros. The lowest orders was right at 4%. And then they said, no, we don't want to go any lower than that. It seems to me like if the Treasury Department were to start buying back bonds, that could push rates back below 4%. I also kind of feel like that if you take like a 10 or a 30 year for at 4%, that's probably a pretty good deal. It's either a really good deal or a really bad deal, right? Because it's either we go back down and rates become zero again, or we have crazy inflation for the next decade. I don't know what that person is. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you because this is important. It's kind of important to what's going on in U.S. politics. Okay, there is a race in Pennsylvania between Dr. Mehmet Oz and what's the other guy's name? Nick Fetterman, I think. Nick Fetterman is the Democrat incumbent, and this is a very key swing district and one of the most competitive races for the Republicans to pick up. And Republicans were a little unhappy. Well, establishment Republicans were a little unhappy that Oz, who was the guy that Donald Trump endorsed, won because they thought that he was too extreme. But the Republicans were given a gift in the form of Mr. Nick Fetterman having a stroke. So since then, his cognitive abilities have just not quite been there. And last night they had the debate, and there was this whole big drama about whether they were even going to have the debate, if I recall correctly. They had the debate. Maybe his name is not Nick. Let's see here. Predict it. John Fetterman. His name is John Fetterman. Even more generic name than Nick. There you go, John. Mr. John Fetterman. So anyways, they had a debate last night, and apparently Fetterman just like completely bombed. Like all of the I haven't watched it yet, but all of the media is that he just completely bombed. And so if Oz wins that race, that substantially increases the probabilities of Republicans taking over the Senate. Sunak is committed to banning fracking in the UK. That doesn't sound very conservative. I don't see that on my news squawk, though. The World Economic Forum is gonna World Economic Forum. I find it incredibly odd that fracking at the national level is the big issue in the UK. Isn't that weird? It's like, of all of the problems that you have, and fracking is the one that you're arguing about? What? But it does that. There were people who were really concerned about whether he was going to do the fracking or not. Totally true. And banning fracking isn't very helpful to them, is it? So Ray Dalio, he talks about being self-reflective a lot. And I would, when maybe I should say this to him, because I see him on TikTok from time to time, and he talks about some economic things. A lot of them are like, the US empire is going to die, right? And then the other ones are things about the economy that to me are like, no doubt, but are interesting to other people, right? Like he did an interview with Andrew Yang, and he was explaining to Andrew Yang how you can't increase people's living or quality of life. You can't increase people's quality of life by printing money. And Andrew Yang was just sitting there dumbfounded, like, oh, everything that I believed was wrong by this economic guru that I really respect. But I want to hear Ray Dalio talk about how to be more self-reflective. When there is pain, the animal instinct is to fight or flight. Calm yourself down and reflect instead. The pain you're feeling is due to things being in conflict. Maybe you've come up against a terrible reality, such as the death of a friend, and are unable to accept it. Maybe you've been forced to acknowledge a weakness that challenges the idea that you had of yourself. If you can think clearly about what's behind it, you will learn more about what reality is like and how to better deal with it. Self-reflectiveness is the quality that most differentiates those who evolve quickly from those who don't. Remember, pain plus reflection equals progress. Okay. I feel like that highlights the importance of being self-reflective, but I don't know if that teaches me how to be more self-reflective. I feel like that I am very self-reflective, but I'm not actually sure if I would be very good at being able to tell if I was very self-reflective or not. You know what I mean? I find it interesting that the major problem that we have in trying to do like economic and price models in markets are kind of the same problem that we have from the mental aspects of trading, which is that it's hard to see where you are and it's hard to see where you're going, right? It's like the whole concept behind a sorry, what is this called? A Kalman filter. It's kind of like a Kalman filter where it's like where there's noise, there's so much noise in the measurement that it's hard to do a reliable calculation, sort of a thing, right? And we see that in prices all the time. But I feel like it's the same thing with your mental state, is that like humans are not really very aware of what their mental state is. Oh, I totally, I'll agree with you on that one. Actually, it's baloney when private planes are exempted from the carbon tax in the EU, but commercial flights have doubled the duty on them. Can't have the plebs hiking to the skies like the overlords without paying the toll. Yeah, 100%. Because I tell you what's happening. I'm telling you what's happening is that the elites are very, very, they've made like this significant shift. And the shift is, we need to do something about the climate right now. Otherwise, we won't be able to fly anymore, right? So the whole thing is, they're going to start imposing the costs on all of society so that those costs never get imposed on them. That's really what it's about, I feel. And you can see it in like every freaking situation. When there is something that's going to hit people's pocketbooks, if it would really affect the lifestyle that the elites have, then they don't do it. Totally. And private planes is the best example. When the reality is that the elites use so much more carbon compared to everyone else, that it's like all of the pores reducing our carbon emissions hardly makes a dent in it. When one person just not having a private jet would be so much bigger of a difference. But I also think that there's a lot of cases where like people have these ideas about, oh, well, here's how we're going to save the environment, and they don't actually think these things through. Okay. Like, did you know that charging a Tesla is like equivalent to a regular home's 3-day usage of power? So if everybody's going to have a car, you're going to triple the amount of electricity that gets used, right? Oh, and by the way, like, we're producing less electricity because we're shutting down the nuclear power plants and stuff. Like, it's just absolutely insane. Like, we're not generating enough electricity, and like the electric power grid like can't even handle it. Like, I've seen so many electricians on TikTok complaining about how most homes actually can't have a Tesla charger in them. And so then people have to go and charge it at the local charging station, and it's being used, and you have to get to work, right? It's absolutely crazy. We may be eating bugs one day, but they'll still be eating steak from bulls they own on their prey. I read a paper from 2018. The total flights going to Dave. Oh, yes, this is a famous study. Going to Davos for the World Economic Forum every year for the week produce about the same amount of carbon emissions than what the Mumbai airport does, which handles like 100 times the traffic. It's crazy. Okay, guys, I got to get going. So I'm going to continue to try and hold this swing. It's looking okay. So we will see you guys tomorrow. Tomorrow will be Thursday. Yeah, the week feels like it's going by real quick now. When I say that tomorrow will be Thursday, what? Until then, stay excellent, team. I appreciate, by the way, what can I say before I go? Appreciate, it was a little bit more sparse of a video, and I know we were talking a lot of politics and Seth opinions, but I appreciate those of you that stick around and chat with me even if you don't agree. So stay excellent, team.